Welcome to AZTechCast, sponsored by the Arizona Technology Council, with your hosts, Steve Zylstra and Karen Nowicki. AZTechCast is dedicated to covering innovation and technology in Arizona and beyond. Broadcasted monthly, AZTechCast invites leading experts to have real conversations about what is happening in the tech sector across the state of Arizona. From regional news to innovative startups, companies, and emerging technologies, AZTechCast covers the critical issues and economic trends propelling the state's growing tech ecosystem.
Made in Arizona. It's a phrase that's becoming more familiar as the state's manufacturing sector continues to grow and add new jobs. Between the development of new cost-saving technologies, the automation of manufacturing processes, and a business-friendly climate, Arizona's manufacturing landscape is quickly being recognized on a national stage. Welcome to Phoenix Business Radio X. I'm your host, Karen Nowicki, and I'd like to welcome you to AZTechCast, sponsored by Arizona Technology Council. The accomplished manufacturing leaders that are joining us today are here to discuss the rapid evolution and development of Arizona's manufacturing sector, the challenges it faces, the predictions for the future. We have a lot of interesting content to cover, so we're going to dive in. But before we do, I want to introduce you to our featured guest. We have Mike Boozman, EVP and Chief Operating Officer at Benchmark. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Karen.
Great to have you. And Brett Dooley, Sales Engineer at In Position Technologies. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Mike McCormick, President and CEO of CP North America. Hello to you, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
All right, two mics. So we'll figure out what the cadence is for that, right? So let's start with having each of you introduce yourself. And we're all on Zoom and we can see each other. And for our listening audience, where it's just an audio experience, sometimes when we're in these situations and we're not sitting right next to each other, we might talk over each other. That's okay. We'll just find our cadence with that. So I want to first start by asking each of you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about the work you do, and then what are some of the specific customer industries and technologies that you work with? Who would like to go first?
I can start. Sorry, Mike, you go ahead.
I was actually going to offer it up to you since I got to introduce first. You please, Mike, go ahead.
All right. As Karen said, I'm Mike McCormick. I'm the President and CEO of CP North America. We are a design and manufacturer of rugged computer hardware and also vertically integrated solutions for unmanned aerial vehicles. Our primary markets are defense, which makes up about 75% of our market, but we're also heavily invested in the industrial and civil markets. So what I say is computer automation, robotics, biosciences, et cetera.
And your background, how long, did you say how long you've been with them?
Yeah, I've been with the company 7 years. I'm an Air Force veteran. I've worked globally, just moved the company to Arizona back in April of this year, and lived extensively overseas for the last 28 years as well.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing a little bit more about that background. And of course, we're going to talk about why Arizona, right? That's part of our purpose in being here today. All right, Mike, you get to go next.
I should have gone first because now I don't have a pedigree like Mike does. So
make it up, Mike. Make it up.
Yeah,
go on, Mike.
I'll embellish a little bit. How's that? Now, again, Mike Boozman, as you said, Karen, EVP, COO here at Benchmark. Actually, the building behind me on screen, that is our headquarters here in Tempe. Similar to Mike, we've had a journey. We moved our headquarters here about 4 years ago. The company's actually over 40 years old, but we moved here from Texas 4 years ago. I've been at Benchmark for actually about the time we moved the headquarters, so for 4 years. And Benchmark actually designs, manufactures, and then kind of manages supply chain for about 170 different customers that we design and build product for. So we engage across the entire life cycle, and we have operations in about 7 different countries, 20 manufacturing sites around the world. And the sectors that we support are kind of honed in on the higher technology areas, medical or healthcare, life sciences, aerospace, defense. We do a lot of advanced computing, a lot of next generation telecommunications, and a lot of semiconductor capital equipment are our customers that we engage with.
Excellent. Who are you kidding? That was a pretty great introduction. Brett, now you get to go.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm Brett Dooley. I'm a technical sales engineer at In-Position Technologies. Our core business at IP Tech is sort of twofold. First thing we work with equipment manufacturers that need any kind of precision motion inside their products. So you could think of printers, scanners, some sort of laboratory analysis instrumentation, basically anything that moves things around inside. That's not quite as relevant to what we're talking about today. The other part of our core business is what's related. We work with manufacturers to improve quality, efficiency, lower manufacturing costs, things like that through the use of factory automation. That could be robot arms, autonomous mobile robots. It could be Internet of Things enabled automation equipment, basically anything in the automation world. And I guess just a little bit about my background. Like Mike, I was in the military for a while. I spent 10 years in the Navy on submarines as an electronics tech, and then went into the engineering field as a mechanical guy. So I have my fingers in a little bit of both. So automation was a great fit.
Now I ended up coming a little bit late to the party. Daryl, our producer, was getting you all kind of set up and mic'd up. Do the three of you know each other and you've worked together before? Is this your first occasion to come together? I apologize for not knowing that.
Oh, that's okay. I'd say we're getting become acquainted. Mike and I actually started some conversations about 3 weeks ago, which is probably the first time we'd really chatted. So
excellent.
Yeah, I'd say we all have a lot in common, but don't know each other that well, except me and Mike have got to know each other over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And we love that. I know Bianca, who's listening and helps coordinate these shows for Steve and myself, is likely smiling ear to ear, because that's part of why we do this, right? We don't, not only do we want our listening audience to get to know your businesses and how you're representing the industry in Arizona and your leadership, we also want to facilitate those opportunities for you all to get to know each other and find the synergy, right, where that fits. So thank you again for being here. Why Arizona? I think when Mike was introducing himself, that question was sparked, given that you guys are the newest of the crew to be here in Arizona. But I'd love to hear from each of you. Why did you choose to have a presence in Arizona? And then what are some of the biggest factors that have contributed to Arizona's rise in manufacturing over the last 10 years?
Well, I'm more than happy to start. When we were based in San Diego, California, and we kind of run out of space because we're building aircraft, we're building larger systems, and we had to find some more space. So the first consideration is, do we want to actually stay in California? I think enough people know the politics and the economics of why it was advantageous for us to leave the state. So we looked actually at 5 states. We looked at Arizona, Texas, Alabama, and everybody said, why Alabama? Well, it has a huge defense industry in Huntsville. That was one primary reason. Then we also looked at Utah and Nevada. And really what made us choose Arizona was, first of all, supply chain, a very large semiconductor industry here, very high tech, a lot of good universities where we could recruit from, Arizona State, Embry-Riddle, because we're based in Prescott, Arizona, where Embry-Riddle is, and also University of Arizona and NAU. So having that, technology base from the university levels, and then the supply chain, Taiwan Semiconductors moving here, we got Intel here. Having that was in a large defense industry, from the Lockheed Martins, the Raytheons, having Yuma Proving Grounds here was instrumental in why we chose Arizona. And the other thing, the state of Arizona just made it easy, from the governor's office all the way down to the Arizona Commerce Authority, just made the choice of choosing Arizona a simple decision. So that was really the driving factors of why we chose Arizona and why we see our growth here as being fundamental.
Excellent. And Mike, you yourself were in San Diego at the time then?
Yeah, I sure was. So I've been with the company 7 years, helped grow the company, took it to acquisition. We're Israeli owned. That's another significant factor for us. There's a good technology alliance between, the Arizona Commerce Authority has offices in Tel Aviv. Our ultimate parent company is Aeronautics of Israel. So having that relationship from a economic and international economic position was very important for us in that decision-making process.
Good to know. Yeah. Are you missing the water? Are you missing?
No. I have to admit, I'm a native of Arizona, so it was not a difficult decision to come back here.
Yeah. Yeah, and hey, close enough to go and dip your toe in the water and then come back.
You bet. That's what lakes are for.
Right. Oh, and my son and I just bought paddle boards. I have a 14-year-old left at home with me. My other two are grown and gone, and I need to get him away from the face or the screen time. As
Yeah.
important as it is, it also can become a heavy addiction, especially for kiddos that age. So I'm like, what can we do together that mom would still be kind of cool, and something that he can do in a couple years with his friends. So we just got paddle boards, and we've been going out to Butcher Jones Beach at Sora Lake several weekends, and even bought shorty wetsuits so that we can go a little bit longer as the weather gets a little bit cooler. So Mike, thanks again for that introduction. So how about either of you, Mike and Brett as well? Tell us a little bit about Arizona, why you're here, and then what you think are some of the biggest factors contributing to the rise the past decade here in Arizona.
Brett, you want to go?
Sure, I appreciate that. And I do want to say I was just paddleboarding with my kids last week, so I think that's a great activity. Time down at Patagonia Lake, so that is a good way to go. So my company was always looking for high precision. That's what my company was founded on. We've been here for 20 years. We were in Arizona because we felt like that's where people are doing high tech, high precision things. We're not manufacturing incredibly high volumes of low precision products. Arizona is like Mike mentioned, it's semiconductors, it's defense, optics, things like that. Down in Tucson, there's a huge optics cluster, and that is all very high precision things. And that is what we specialize in, and that's what we train our personnel to be good at. So it made sense for us to be here. And I think to answer your question about why people are coming here, it's because now there is a base of that kind of skill in the area. And so when new companies arrive, there's people here that can help them kickstart their manufacturing with some knowledge already. And it's a great way to just get a jump on everything without having to train everyone from scratch.
And 20 years ago, did you have the foresight then to say, like, this, we're planting ourselves here and I can see it, can I see the vision years from now? Or was it scrambling a little bit at first? And was there ever an opportunity where you thought maybe Arizona isn't the place to be? I'm just curious about some of the decisions along the way to stay rooted here.
Well, our company is spread out over many states now, so I can't claim that we are solely focused on Arizona, but we started here and we're slowly expanding across the southwest of the United States, California, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico. But there's always been a vision that this is the right place to be, and Arizona is still our number one area because we do focus here and our headquarters is here. I don't think there's ever really been any desire to move somewhere else, but I think this is home for a lot of people in our company.
The more conversations that Steve and I have with folks like you who are representing the tech industry here in Arizona and of course, and beyond, right? The more we hear people aligning themselves with the universities, with the smaller business owners, with other countries and what they're doing. I mean, we really are becoming that space and consistently staying there as it relates to technology. And of course, in this conversation today around advanced manufacturing, I think that it says a lot about our leadership. And we've often talked about how impressive and how important the relationship between Arizona Tech Council is and Arizona Commerce Authority. I mentioned the universities. A few of you have mentioned our legislature. We really are blessed to have this great state of ours, and I'm thrilled that you all are representing it in such a powerful way. Mike, let's hear from you as well.
Sure. Well, you're going to hear some pretty common themes, but I think it's a pretty clear story. But as I mentioned, we moved our headquarters. We made a conscious choice to leave Texas about 4 years ago. Our reason was a little different than Mike's was. Talking about space. We were in a part of Texas, great part of Texas, but it was oil and gas space, and our customers are much more over in what I would call the higher tech industry. Very similar to what Brett said. High complexity, high precision. Not necessarily ultra high volume, and a lot of aerospace defense, a lot of medical. So we went and we looked at multiple states, and we made a decision. I won't say settled. We made a real clear choice to come over here. And at the time we did it, there were 3 or 4 primary reasons, and you've heard a couple of them. We needed access to, a talent pool of, highly skilled, highly technical people. It's a great area for that. We wanted to supplement that with a lot of, young, bright thinkers and, coming out of ASU, coming out of GCU, the fact that Fulton School of Engineering's got 20,000+ engineering students in it. And our headquarters is 2.5 miles from campus. It was a strategic choice to be by a university like that. So that was clearly one. The second thing is, our leadership team, we attract people from a lot of different parts of the country. And we wanted a location that we could kind of look at people and say, look, it's a great place to live. Quality of life's great. All the things that we know living here, the weather, paddleboarding. I'm a Midwest guy. I moved here 9 years ago. And a shorty wetsuit doesn't cut it there for about 6 months out of the year. You just don't do it, So it was part of it was the quality of life, and cost of living and all those things. And then, the third thing is, we say it's a business-friendly environment. Governor Ducey, when we came here 4 years ago, was doing an awesome job, lining things up, whether that's tax incentives, whether it's the access to the chamber and so on, and all those elements kind of converged for us. And the fourth thing, and it wasn't necessarily as big of a deal, but a really nice thing, we're proximate now to a lot of our customers, the aerospace and defense customers we work with, the growth now, in semi-cap and semiconductor here has probably proven to be a pleasant surprise for us because that's one of the big sectors that we service. So, all those elements kind of played into how we landed here in Arizona.
Fantastic. The next question I have for each of you are, what are some of the newest technology manufacturers and how are they utilizing to improve efficiency and reduce costs? I don't think I said that quite correctly. Let me try that again. What are some of the newest technology manufacturers and how are they utilizing it to improve efficiency and reduce costs?
Yeah, I'll jump in if you guys want.
Sure.
Maybe first swing at this one, and I'll probably go pretty wide range here. At our core of manufacturing, we do two primary things. We do a lot of electronics manufacturing, and there's a huge amount of technology going on there, kind of from the core machines that we've used. But what's really intriguing is kind of the whole Internet of Things connection and the factory of the future, and Brett's probably really well positioned to talk about a lot of that, but we're taking a lot of very traditional pieces of equipment, connecting them better. I won't call it a lights out factory, but starting to automate things that historically required a lot of manual intervention. And we're doing a lot more work over with robotics and, trying to take not just the labor element, but the precision, the repetitive task and the quality and build those things into our process. The other part of our manufacturing is not electronics, and it's precision machining grinding. And we do a significant amount of work for the semi-cap industry. That's ultra precise machining and grinding. And it's easy to think about that. You take a big piece of metal, you grind it down into something that's a smaller piece of metal. But what we're finding there is the advances in technology are 5-axis machining systems that we used to have to go to 6 different operations to do something, and now we can do it in one pass through a machine. So it sounds kind of mundane, but the convergence of technology and automation and precision into some of this equipment is really enabling us to leapfrog almost a whole generation in technology.
Who's next? Yep, Brett's ready.
Sure. Yeah, I'll jump in here. And what Mike brought up there is right in line with what we like to talk about. A lot of people think of how to improve technology in their factory toward a lights out type manufacturing role. And that's already been done. And if it can be done, a lot of people have already done that. So that's not where the advancements are. Most of the places we're seeing the most growth are those types of jobs where it wasn't possible to get the people out of the mix. You still need your personnel there. So even though we're going to automate components of the system, there's going to be a person standing right next to it, still doing the things that we require people to do. So for an example, a lot of tasks are very repetitive and very boring, to be honest with you. And people tend to kind of make mistakes and not enjoy that work very much. And that person could be so much more productive if a automation cell or a robot is standing right next to them and handling the very boring, repetitive items that are on the list, and they are standing right there still doing things that people are very good at: quality assurance, making sure something looks correct, doing complex assembly tasks that actually use some brain power. And the key to the new technology is the fact that we are using hand-in-hand automation with the robot and the person. So that's exactly what Mike was talking about. And a lot of the Internet of Things integration, a lot of the advancements in using artificial intelligence are what is allowing that to happen. We can't always bring in a 100-man engineering team to automate something if it's a very small task that doesn't have a whole lot of immediate return on investment. So we need things that someone that is standing there on the floor can automate. So they need to be able to use their experience and set up an automation cell, what we would consider to be an automation cell, without bringing that team of engineers on. And that's where the advancements are happening. And we're using this new intelligent robotics to do that.
And Karen, I'll approach it from a different perspective. So we're a supplier to a lot of these industries. We build very specialized computers that are FCC qualified for robotics, where you can't use your standard type of computer system. And in those, we're seeing an enormous growth in factory robotics, robots used for replenishment, not just, let's say large computer automation of vehicles, et cetera, but also just like Brett said, the monotonous tasks. So these are robots running around factory floors, replenishing assembly workers or assembly robots on the factory floor. But at the same time, it gets into things that, a lot of people don't even think about. We're supplying computers that are used in the logging industry to maximize the amount of wood that's gained out of any single log. So this type of automation goes from what people would think is a very manual labor process of log cutting to robots running around the factory floor, replenishing the manufacturing supplies and gaining efficiencies so that you don't have the line go down, so somebody can go get replenishment materials to continue the manufacturing process. So a lot of this goes into where Arizona is going as far as increasing the amount of automation, and how companies like us and Brett and Mike's companies can in increasing those companies' efficiencies.
Hey, Mike, if you don't mind, I was going to circle back because Brett said something I think that's really well. I like this conversation a lot. Brett, you said it. Things that could be really automated, like a lights out factory. You think about, everybody sees the videos like of the Ford Motor Company and the assembly line. That work, a lot of that's been done. I think the opportunities now, these cobots, where they take over a smaller task, and these kind of we think about pockets of automation versus we're going to automate the entire factory. And I think especially in the high technology, kind of lower medium volume space, those opportunities I think are pervasive. There's all kinds of opportunities for that.
Most definitely. Yeah, definitely agree with you.
And if I could just piggyback, because Mike McCormick, you brought up a very interesting thing, which is the new mobile robotics world. And that is really where we're seeing the most explosive growth. Arizona, and back to why everybody's in Arizona, I don't know if you guys have looked around at most of the buildings in Arizona, but they're massive and the flooring is immaculate. And it makes these mobile robot applications just go flawlessly because the buildings are huge and spacious and well suited to doing things like that. And the safety gain from having a very safe mobile robot compared to a forklift with a human driver that can make mistakes, it's a pretty big safety gain as well. And, other Mike, when you brought up the cobots, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Something that can be placed next to an existing work cell and set up and have it running within a day. It really is that easy in a lot of cases. And so that's really where we're seeing the most benefit.
And I'm going to piggyback a little more because I like you mentioned the safety element, because that's the other thing. People a lot of time go, oh, robots, that's just taking away jobs. A lot of what we're talking about, it's not. It's supplementing a job. It's taking a repetitive task. It's taking out repetitive motion injuries. And like, as you said, Brett, big form factor forklifts driving around, there's an inherent safety factor. So I think the safety element, people don't tend to think about as much. And I think it's a big part of why I think automation continues.
All right. Well, we're going to continue this rich conversation in just a couple of moments, but we want to make sure our listeners are aware that this program is possible by a couple of sponsors. We have Arizona Commerce Authority, who's AZTechCast 2021 Innovation Sponsor, and we're going to hear from them right now.
Our streamlined pro-business approach helps you achieve more by putting less between you and future success. Less red tape, lower taxes, less distance separating you from the tech leaders of tomorrow. This innovative ecosystem will supply your business with tools and resources to compete in the 21st century and beyond. But your future is more than just business success. In Arizona, the lifestyle you want is at your fingertips. Explore cities known for their Southwest heritage and modern vision. Enjoy beautiful scenery and endless outdoor activities on land, water, or snow. And if you're looking for a little friendly competition, we've got plenty of teams to choose from. With constant sunshine, vibrant culture, and natural wonder, Arizona provides a style of living that's entirely unique. People from all over the world call our state home. From student leaders who fill the classrooms of our top-ranked universities, to a skilled and abundant workforce that's ready for what's next, to the neighbors, friends, and peers we interact with daily, Arizonans are united by a pioneering spirit that moves us forward. So as you look to the future, know that it's filled with the perfect balance of innovation and high-quality living that makes life better here.
All right. Thank you, Arizona Commerce Authority, for helping us with this AZTechCast program each month right here at Business Radio X. We're grateful for your support. Let's jump back into the conversation with the next question, which is how can manufacturing automation help Arizona businesses compete with foreign sources?
Well, I don't mind popping up on this one because one of the key factors that we're trying to do as a company is onshoring. Everybody during the 90s and the 2000s started about offshoring, taking technology and to the lowest cost location they could for manufacturing, and that's an ever decreasing circle as we see. So I think that one of the key factors that we need with automation is to increase efficiencies, increase quality, and reduce costs to compete with foreign sources. The geopolitical, me and Mike have talked about this, the geopolitical situation, trying to bring your supply chain home. You look at the cost of shipping now, the increased energy costs taking place. And it's essential to keep your supply chain close, to keep it as efficient through automation, and to reduce the length of time as well, because with what has happened with COVID, what is happening with the global supply chain now, in business to business solutions, you just can't rely on short lead times anymore. A lot of the offshore companies, their factories closed down due to COVID. Their supply chain, trying to get semiconductor material, has lengthened. So having all of this in Arizona, but also automating as much as possible, I think is essential to any company in Arizona being successful. And Mike could probably talk about this even more because that's one of his key things we've been talking about.
Yeah, Mike and I had a pretty robust conversation several weeks ago. It was one of those Me Too conversations as we talked through it. And I think, maybe a little later we can talk about kind of the globalization and the pendulum on the, overall supply chain. But when I think about automation right now for us, the two things we're probably, most concerned about in the longer run are, can we continue to find enough talent to do the kind of work we do? And as Brett said, some of the automation is just mundane tasks are hard. They're just hard. People don't like to do them. I don't want to do them. And some of them, they have some safety factors to them. Some of them, there's an inherent quality risk. So I think automation, if we can take out some of the mundane tasks, I'll call them that, and let our teams focus on things where that critical skill set can best be utilized, I think that helps a lot. And Mike, you and I were talking, a couple of weeks ago. I think one of the biggest challenges is not necessarily finding the skills, what I would call 4-year degree people. I mean, everything's a challenge now, trying to find people. But those, Mike, you and I were using kind of the apprentices, the 1 year, 2 year,
Yeah, the vocationally educated, 2 years after high school, and then they can get into apprenticeships, and that was vital for us. I mean, one of the reasons, again, we chose Prescott, Arizona, was having that. We had a community college, Yavapai College here, who has an automation course here for 2-year students, and that was ideal to pull people into manufacturing. And it was becoming very rare, and I'm glad to see everybody now is talking about, hey, you don't necessarily have to have that 4-year degree, and all that debt associated with it as a student. You can now do 2-year degrees and possibly have a better income there, but also it provides companies like yours, ours, Brett's, with that talent pool that we need, who can come straight out of that 2-year course and walk onto a manufacturing floor. That's what we really need. We don't necessarily need the 4-year engineers all the time, even though we do, but we don't need that all the time. It's those apprenticeships that we need, internships, etc.
And I think, and Brett, we certainly want your position, but I think there's like two edges to this sword, and they're both really positive, right? To your point, Mike, with the technology now out there on automation, and Brett, you're best position to talk about this. It doesn't take a 4 or an 8-year degree person to go out and program some of these machines now. Much different than it was 10 or 20 years ago. So a 1 or 2-year degree, I'll call this apprentice level person, can do pretty cool things with automation right now. And then the automation pays the benefit. It frees up, by doing some mundane tasks, it frees up the organization to do more and more of those next level work items. So I think there's multiple benefits. Brett, I don't know if that makes sense to you or not.
Absolutely. I always used to joke with people about some of the automation out now, that I would be at trade shows and I would have a high school student come up and want to talk to me. And I would be right in the middle of another conversation, so I couldn't necessarily prioritize that high school student right then. So I would just hand them the teach pendant for the robot that I had sitting there, go back to my conversation for a couple minutes, and when I turned around again to finally get to speak with them, they already had it doing everything that they were wanting to do just by looking at it. These guys now are, the kids, guys and girls, are able to do everything. They're so used to iPhones and things like that. They're very quick with technology. And so it doesn't take a 4-year program to get them up and running on these. There's very few things they need to add to what they can already do natively to get them up and running in it. And to add to the supply chain, having things available local at some level in the United States is absolutely critical. Every supply chain issue I run into in my day-to-day job is related to importing something from overseas. Every single one of them. I have not had a single shutdown based on a domestic product. And so I think more we can do that, the better off everyone's going to be. And Arizona has a lot of space to put up more of those facilities. So it's a great place to do that.
Hey, Brett, I can't agree with you more on that. We've gone, because we're a defense company, there's been restrictions on importing anything with a source from China. And even some of the product coming from Taiwan is questionable now because their reliance on China. And with the geopolitical situation, it's created more and more challenges. So one of our key strategic directions right now is get everything from offshore and bring it onshore. And one of the key factors, again, is working with people like Benchmark. That's one of the conversations Mike and I have been having is, hey, what can you guys do for us in Arizona so that we don't have to go overseas anymore? And a lot of ours are computer boards, graphics, cable harnesses and assemblies, et cetera. And all of that we've tried to bring into Arizona. So to reduce the supply chain, but also the cost associated with that supply chain. Like I said, with the energy costs going up, if you're bringing in something from, let's say, Taiwan, not only do you have the increased energy cost, but now you have it sitting on the port of LA for possibly 4 to 6 weeks because it can't get into port either. So yeah, I agree 100%. Everything, the more we bring closer to home, the better.
Yeah, Mike, I think we're hearing a lot of conversations. Again, we have a nice breadbasket. We have 170 customers across, pretty diverse set of sectors. But the kind of universal theme that we're hearing a lot more is you're hearing this total landed cost, total cost of ownership, and I think the pendulum's moving a lot because for a long time, it was all about just in time. And, there's an argument, sometimes maybe things got a little too leaned out, and too leaned out manifests itself when there's an interrupt. When something happens to that well-oiled machine, and I think every one of us would say a lot's happened. over the last year and a half between.
Oh, COVID has taught us so much about, hey, this is what happens when you offshore everything and you're doing everything just in time. When you're not invested in inventory and making sure that you can be flexible with your customers as quickly as possible. And I don't know if that affects you, Brett, at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have been massively affected by this because we typically deal in year-long contracts at a time. And so there was no way to be extended longer than that. There was no way to be prepared for something that's going to last a year and a half at this point.
Yeah, agree.
So what other challenges, we're talking about challenges right now and the impact that COVID has had. What other challenges are you facing as an industry now that we're kind of moving toward a post-COVID world?
I'll be bold and suggest supply chain.
Yeah.
That's low-hanging fruit, Mike.
For sure. Yeah, nice lob. There we go. All right.
And talent, again, supply chain talent. I go back to what we were just talking about before. I'm glad there's a recognition, at least I think there's a recognition now in the United States, that everybody shouldn't have a 4-year degree. And that's not an insult to saying that you're not intellectually capable of having a 4-year degree. It's more the basis that we've given up a part of our talent pool that was based upon craftsmen and men and women who are capable of having everything from electricians to plumbers to carpenters, and now people who can do automation, who don't need a 4-year degree, people that, we need more vocational and trade colleges again. And I'm glad to see that starting to crop up more. And I'm talking to more educators and from Arizona State, Yavapai College as an example, and Embry-Riddle. And those partnerships for manufacturers, I think, is critical to our ongoing success and our ability to grow our companies by having a really good pool of not just electrical engineers, computer engineers, mechanical engineers, but also those vocationally trained craftspeople who can do everything from the automation side, basic mechanical side, that we can have people who can do assembly and manufacturing and grow that base again in Arizona and the US.
We have another show that we do here at the studio. It's called We All Serve, and it is part of the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation. They're the ones who bring the guests together so that they can highlight, obviously, these, Marine veterans and what they're doing in the world today. And recently we had the founder and owner of Bravada Yachts, freshwater yachts here in Arizona, and Semper Fi Heating and Cooling. And after we were off air, the conversation around getting good tradesmen in the critical positions they need so that these two companies can continue to do what they do, that they're lacking, right? And so this conversation is really important for our youth. I think it's a great opportunity for me to mention, if you're not already familiar with Arizona Technologies Council, SciTech Institute, works specifically around helping educators and students K-12, typically more so middle school to high school, focus on STEM-related career opportunities and getting these kinds of conversations in front of our students, like Brett was describing. That was a beautiful example of how to get a kid involved, right? They intuitively know. It's just like we talked about, my 14-year-old, he wants to be an engineer. At first it was the professional baseball guy. Now he's getting more realistic, right? But how can I, as a parent, how can we as educators continue to put these kids in those situations where they have those hands-on experiences? And SciTech Institute, alongside of Arizona Tech Council, are making sure that we're providing more and more kids these opportunities so that when they're getting ready to graduate, they may not know what they're going to do next. We know that. Some do, not everybody. But at least they have enough opportunities to explore and to think about it. And we're grateful for companies like yours to continue to provide those moments for them.
Well, Karen, and Brett will understand this as well. One of the things we do a lot is we do hire a lot of vets. And the reason I hire a lot of vets is because we get vocationally trained people who have been through a very well-organized training program, schools, hands-on the job training, and have been certified with years of experience sometimes. And getting that is what we used to have also in our vocational in the civilian world that has now disappeared because we encouraged everybody, hey, you got to have a 4-year degree. And then, having a liberal arts degree doesn't take you take you very far in your career in getting into something technology based. So I think, and Brett, you can speak for this as well, especially if you've been on subs. I was a communication engineer flying, and, it was a 2-year school that I went to, and then, 2 years of on the job training. And probably in subs, I knew a lot of boomers, in my day, who had that same sort of qualifications, and that's what we really need in manufacturing these days. We really need some real intensive vocational and on-the-job training courses that help our industries.
Yeah, I agree. The military's method of training people up for a more tradesman style work path is pretty unmatched right now. I would say it's really well done. We are, as a company, trying to invest in the future there. We did pick up some robot lines that are actually appropriate to teach elementary school kids. We started an educational program and a direct point of sale for schools at our company. So there's robots that can't hurt you. They're very low powered, but they teach you programming from a visual and a graphical interface, but then it slowly walks you through up to the hard stuff, right? The coding, the things that sometimes people are a little scared of. But if you grow up doing that, it's not scary anymore. It's very easy. So even as technology is making it so that the hard to do things are more accessible to the average person, they're also creating ways to make the next generation of the difficult programmers, right? The hard to do stuff. And so those are all things that are doing. You mentioned the community colleges up north. I know personally I visited Pima Community College down here, and their mechatronics program is amazing. So if anybody is looking for skilled people, I would also reach out to them. They are willing to tailor their courses to match what industry wants. So they're always happy to work with everyone to train people up. There's just so many ways to get people into this marketplace to help out with the tech industry.
Hey guys, this is a great conversation. I want to maybe 2 threads. Mike, you and I were talking. You were in region in Europe for what, over 20 years?
28 years, yeah.
And I think this space
Yeah.
we're talking about is much different in the U.S. It's a gap, actually, I think, compared to Asia and Europe. So if we can start, whether it's STEM, whether it's FIRST robotics, all those things, start to build this in. Mike, I think this starts to close almost a competitive gap, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think we could all sit around a beer and discuss this. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have the after hours. I think Steve would like that. Part 2, right? And I was going to ask Mike specifically, being that you're here in Tempe, are you guys in conversations with University of Advancing Technology? I don't know if the other 2 are familiar with that university, but what they're doing over there is phenomenal.
Yeah, so we're in some early stage conversations with them. Candidly, we got here 4 years ago. We put a lot of energy into ASU.
Sure.
The ASU program, the proximity. We got very engaged. We do a lot of capstone work with them. We're hiring supply chain graduates, hiring engineering graduates out of there, but more early stage, Karen, to answer to your
Perfect. Yeah, as long as we're aware, we really are very blessed, I believe, to have the university and the community college systems and the private universities that we have here in Arizona. And again, the fact that everybody's having these conversations, wherever they are coming in, people are looking to find that alignment and raise the vibration for all of us. So we'll love that. This is a good point in time for us to take another quick commercial break because we are very fortunate to have JDH Insights as our 21 Tech Advocate sponsor. So let's pause for a moment and hear from them.
Thank you, JDH Insights, for being our 2021 Tech Advocate sponsor. A leader in coaching and executive development, JDH Insights is committed to helping organizations cultivate and leverage their most important and complex asset, their humans. Visit jdhinsights.com to enhance leadership and improve team dynamics to take your business to the next level.
All right. What are you all keeping your eye on as it relates to state and federal policies?
Well, from our perspective, it's really, so we're heavy defense related. So it's sorry, I'll always get tongue tied with this, CMMC compliance, which is security compliance for the Department of Defense. This is a constant moving target because anything regulation that's written by the federal government has a tendency of have a lot of strategic drift involved in it. So having a, we're a small medium enterprise. We don't have a huge amount of resources, and to be able to be a DoD supplier, you have to have this compliance, and there's different stages of it. So to get into a stage 3, which is the most critical of doing secure classified manufacturing, takes quite a bit of what I would say investment, internal investment, outside consultancy investment to be able to meet it. So that's a big factor for us is that compliance. We look at other things. I think Mike and maybe Brett. I don't know if Brett, if you guys are over 100 people, company as well. But then you start getting into the COVID, and Mike, I'll let you talk about, you could talk about that because your guys are going to run it. You're probably going to run into that.
Yeah, so, well, it's funny you led with CMMC because it's on our radar also, because a lot of people we build for it flows through to us. So I'll just simply say, yeah, us too, watching that one and candidly trying to figure out how big, how fast, and when do we, how far do we have to go? Right. Yeah. But yeah, quite honestly, anything related to COVID, and I don't want to get into statement of positions, it's probably not the forum for that. I don't know if I have one at this point, but trying to understand the implications of, COVID and, things like mandatory vaccination, we're watching that really carefully, like anybody, we're all watching that really carefully now, because depending on where that goes, that's either way, it's going to have some implications to us. So we're clearly watching that. And I think the other thing we just in general watch for is, I mentioned it early on, we came here because it's a really business friendly state. Okay. And, everything continues to be really good. We're very happy, very optimistic about everything we've seen, and we just continue to watch as the state continues to grow and more people come in, do things start to change there at all. Okay. So be more strain on power, more strain on water, and all those things, just we'll watch that over time. Oh, Brett, what do you think?
So I can't speak to a lot of the overarching policy around things like that too well. I'm very focused on the automation world, but there are a couple policies that do affect us. One, right now Arizona has a very, very beneficial R&D policy to help companies implement things, and it doesn't have to be automation. It's anything R&D. Like any new automation cell that gets put into a facility likely has R&D behind it. To make it work. And so the state of Arizona is really encouraging that kind of development. And that's very important. And the reason I'm watching it is I want to make sure it keeps going year after year so that people can take advantage of that. But from a federal level, once again, automation, that's what I do. But, the code, ANSI OSHA code, is not well written right now for human and machine interaction. It's very much the old way of doing things, which is you keep a wall in between the two things. And everything that we've talked about so far is the marriage of human and machine interaction and how to make everything work a little better through that. And so watching that federal policy develop is very important to us so that we can do the things that we're talking about doing without having to worry about violating a policy or something like that. But we still want to be safe. So it's very important to have those policies in place. We don't want to hurt anyone. So those are the two major things that I'm focused on. But man, I can't imagine having to deal with some of those other concerns like you guys are right now with all the vaccination policies and things like that. That must be a huge burden.
It chews up a fair amount of time drinking coffee and trying to figure out what to do. That's what it does.
Yeah.
And the people who make the most money out of this, the people who make the most money out of this are lawyers.
Probably true. Probably true. Probably true.
Yes. I'm curious, Brett, and this may not be a question you can answer, and all three of you may be able to, but with OSHA and obviously at a federal level, how can businesses, enterprises, and or folks at the state level help influence that change and having it written so that it is supporting what's really happening and where we need to go and grow? Do we have influence?
Sure. I would say Arizona is not well represented in that front right now. Basically, the people that are influencing this policy are on the board of, the ANSI governing documents that are being written. Mm-hmm. A lot of those guys are high level at the robotics companies and things like that. They are pushing for these types of advancements because they have products that they want to get out into the marketplace. I do not know what Arizona necessarily has as far as a specific person on the seat there, but that is where those decisions are being made at the federal level, are the boards of the documentation writers. So yeah, anything we can do to help support that is just going to be helpful to us, because it's vital to the onshoring agenda that we all have, to be able to do this, to be able to be cost competitive with importing like we've been doing for years.
Karen, one thing I'd like to add as well is, we're a UAV company as well, unmanned aerial vehicles, and one of the biggest factors is the biggest growth portion of that market is in the civil market. And one of the largest challenge we have is FAA certification of aircraft and getting them to accept beyond line of sight flight. In other words, everybody talks about autonomous vehicles, cars and buses and transport. But now we have aircraft, and that seems to scare people a lot more when there's aircraft flying around. And we're trying to do things in relation to firefighting, search and rescue, surveying of the grid, the electrical grids, canals, etc. And all of that is limited right now by the FAA. The FAA puts very stringent restrictions on beyond line of sight flight for aircraft. So that's another big factor for us, and that's going to have to be pushed. And we've gone to the congressional level to work with our representatives to help support that. Sinema is an example. Senator Sinema is on one of the subcommittees for aviation, and we've been talking to her staff about how they can influence and help us with the FAA and getting that certification passed through.
And Karen, I'll maybe take a little different thread than the guys did, but we do a lot of work with some real high-end kind of telecom customers. So customers like Viasat, and what they're doing with trying to do broadband, high-speed internet kind of everywhere. We do a lot of work with some, I guess I'll say defense high-performance computing partners with big Arizona footprints, and they're working on really, really unique and advanced technology to kind of make computing communication faster, make it more secure, more reliable. But any of these spaces that the guys have been talking about and the spaces I talked about, they come with a whole lot of regulatory framework around them. And any of these things that can kind of get harmonized a little better, I think is going to speed time to success. So that's an area that we're watching that's even different than the guys just mentioned here.
Excellent.
In general, I'd say technology moves faster than legislation can. And so it
most definitely, Brett.
Most definitely. And hopefully we'll be in a position at some point to be able to have quicker impact and longevity with that. And again, it makes me, so proud of the work that we're doing with the Arizona Commerce Authority and Arizona Technology Council and all the other stakeholders involved, because that's how mountains get moved. We have two more questions before we hit the top of the hour. It goes fast, doesn't it? We're going to discuss next the long-term economic benefits of inviting more large manufacturers into Arizona and deepening investments in the manufacturing sector. So where do we stand with that? What's the encouragement there?
Well, from my perspective, it's a self-beneficial circle. In other words, the more large manufacturing we get, the closer the supply chain is, the better the tax revenues are. That tax revenue just goes right back to further investment. So I think what a lot of people miss out on investing in these companies coming to Arizona is the tax benefit is going to support the infrastructure. Mike brought up, what about, water, the electricity grid, all of that. For all of this to grow, and I don't want to I consider myself somebody who thinks about the environment a lot. And the one thing you have to think about living in a desert environment is, where are we going to get our resources to sustain the growth of our economy in Arizona and increased manufacturing investment in this state. And so we have, it all has to be about that manufacturing that it's increasing in Arizona has to go back into further investment in the grid, in the infrastructure that allows these companies to continue to grow, to continue feed the taxes in the state, and to keep, again, that cycle going. I think that's what's critical to it.
Yeah, Mike, I think you nailed it. I think my short answer is, I think that the state's got a long history of large manufacturing, which is wonderful. That's a strong base. I think right now, though, we're kind of in this earlier stage of the ecosystem around and kind of a transformational period with a lot of the startup kind of companies, whether the electric vehicle guys or, those kind of organizations. But you supplement now a long established manufacturing base with maybe more of this early stage startup. And all of a sudden it gets kind of magical. It grows, it compounds, and it sustains. And I think that's what's really exciting. Brett?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to piggyback on both of you guys, we've got a lot of great companies here that are investing in renewables. And the only reason, and that's how we're going to keep the water supply going and keep the electrical grid up to where it needs to be. But the only way these guys can do what they do is by having a large talent pool in the area. So having the larger companies here supporting the city, supporting the county, the state, that's what allows those companies to find the talent they need to make these breakthroughs and keep us going. So it's all a big web, and we need those people coming here to continue that.
So obviously the future looks bright for Arizona's manufacturing sector. What are your predictions for decades to come?
You go, Brett.
I could say I think it's looking great. We're seeing people coming here. I feel like a daily basis, I get a notification from a newspaper or something about a new contract that's been signed for another company to move here. And I think that's a great sign for the future.
I echo Brett, and Mike, I like the way you said it. It's kind of this organism that it's feeding itself. All right. Part of the growth came because there was enough here and some vision to invest, get ready for growth, stimulated the growth. And now if we keep doing this well, the growth will keep kicking off investments to sustain growth. So I think it's very bright future ahead.
Absolutely.
Mike?
Karen, I'm the biggest cheerleader you'll ever find for encouraging companies to move to Arizona. I spent a lot of time even with the city of Prescott. They say, hey, we got somebody who's looking at moving to Northern Arizona. Do you mind talking to them? And I get out my pom-poms and I get out there and I tell them why this is such a phenomenal place to set up manufacturing and set up their business, because I just see, Arizona is a great lifestyle location. I always tell people, some of my staff for the first time, they've been able to buy a home because they live in Arizona now and they couldn't do that in California.
Yeah.
They saw their paychecks increase just for the less tax burden. So, I think the future is extremely bright. And I think the more good high-tech companies that we bring into the state, close the supply chain in more into the state as well, get some of these small, medium enterprises in here, as well as the large Intels and the Taiwan semiconductors, et cetera, in here. I think it's great for the state because you need those small businesses as well. And I'm glad to see a lot of small businesses either starting up here or moving here.
Absolutely. You're reminding me, 4 years ago, I opened the studio here in Tempe, and I was looking to become a partner with Business Radio X, who had been in the Atlanta area and a couple other little places for about 10 years before I joined. And I reached out on LinkedIn and I said, hey, why are you not in Phoenix and Scottsdale? Like, how does this work? And might it be something for me? And they immediately responded and said, well, why should we be? Like, genuinely curious. And for all the things we've discussed, that even 4 years ago was why I said, listen, we need to have these conversations. And Phoenix and Arizona is up and coming in so many different industries, representing so many different areas of our economic success here, not only as a country, right, but in Arizona specifically. So this has been a fantastic conversation. I hope you all felt that you were able to contribute and share what you wanted to share. I'd love to go around just one last time and see if there's anything else that you want to make sure we leave our listeners with. And then if you have it handy, where can we stay in touch with you? Perhaps it's LinkedIn and most certainly your website as well.
Yeah, from my perspective, again, I'll just go back to saying I'm a great cheerleader for the state. I think from the governor's office all the way to the Arizona Commerce Authority, the Chamber of Commerce, the Arizona Tech Council, everybody has been so phenomenal in encouragement, the networking that you get, the tax incentives, just the welcoming business environment, I think is second to none.
Yes.
Mike, I'd echo it, and I think just the open environment, this is kind of, there's a whole bunch of people all trying to be successful, but doing it in the spirit of partnership, I think is really powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
Partnership all the way. Absolutely. There's competition, but also we can raise the vibration with each other as we learn alongside each other and help each other. Brett, lasting thoughts for you.
No, it's great. You know, I'm an ambassador with the Arizona Technology Council, and I think the work everyone's doing to keep everyone together and working on the same team has been great. It's been wonderful.
Excellent. So Brett Dooley, sales engineer at In Positions Technology, Mike Boozman, EVP and Chief Operating Officer at Benchmark, and Mike McCormick, President and CEO of CP North America. I am grateful to have an opportunity to have gotten to know you today, and so appreciative that you've shared your wisdom, your time, and your talent with us here at Business Radio X. You've been listening to AZTechCast, brought to you by Phoenix Business Radio with Business Radio X. Today's AZTechCast was brought to you by the Arizona Commerce Authority, the state's leading economic development organization, with a streamlined mission to grow and strengthen Arizona's economy. Thank you again, Arizona Commerce Authority, and many thanks to JDH Insights, the 2021 Advocate sponsor. Visit jdhinsights.com to enhance leadership and improve team dynamics to take your business to the next level. And if you're interested in being a podcast participant or sponsor for the Council's AZTechCast, then contact marketing@aztechcouncil.org to lock in your opportunity to further position you as a tech expert, influencer, and innovator. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for joining us on AZTechCast.
More minutes, boys.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of AZTechCast with Arizona Technology Council, featuring leading tech and business experts that help influence and shape our great state and the industries they serve.